Okay. Calling to order the July 15th, 2024 meeting of the East Amwell Planning Board. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is a regularly scheduled meeting pursuant to the resolution adopted on the January 16, 2024, with a meeting notice sent to the Hunterdon County Democrat on January 18, 2024. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was posted to the Township website on July 11, 2024, posted on the bulletin board, and filed in the clerk's office on July 11, 2024. Miss Emily Deadweiler.
Here.
Mr. Matthew Kohut.
Here.
Mayor Dante DePiero.
Here.
Mr. Jamal Kadri.
Here.
Township Committee Member Al Nardi.
Here.
Mr. Richard Catanacci. Miss Mary Van Horn.
Here.
Miss Candace Wiggum.
Here.
Mr. Michael McGovern.
Here.
Miss Maria Teresi. Mr. Robert O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Michael Davis.
Here.
And Miss Alexis Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Also, please, for the record, show that Kristen Athanasia is here.
Duly noted. Okay, review of agenda. The first thing Kristen asked me to remind everyone, including myself, to please speak into the microphone. So I'm doing that. Thinking maybe we should get a swear jar for not speaking into the microphone. We'll find a charity to give it to, and we'll all be good, right? No, and just there are people that do actually follow along from home. The only changes to the agenda, there were two pieces of correspondence that came in late. They have been added to the agenda at the bottom, but they weren't on the original agenda. So if you have one that was printed out today, I think, Kristen, they will be noted there. But if you have one from last week, they are not on there. Other than that, I think we have everything, everything's as is. Next up, civil and citizens' privilege to speak. May I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Open to the public for items not on the agenda. Going once, going twice. With no objection, we're closing to the public. Okay. Presentation of the minutes. We are actually going to hold both the April minutes and the June minutes. Both of those hearings were quite long, and especially on the April one, as I was going through them preparing for this meeting, because I realized we really wanted to have a little bit more detail for the record. So we're holding both of those. If anyone actually wants to see what happened, they can see the video now, but for the formal meeting minutes, we're going to hold those to next month. We will have both of them for next month, right, Kristen? So just letting everyone know. So they'll be both the April 15, 2024 and the June 17, 2024 meeting minutes are being held for next month. We have no resolutions. Moving right along. Unfinished business. We're going to switch this real quick. The Robert Monahan application will not be heard tonight.
So the application that started last month, 35 Rosemont Ringgold Road, is going to be continued to September 16th. So not August, September 16th meeting, date certain, as we know from last month's meeting that the applicant had conflict with both this month and next month. So it's being continued till September 16th. No further notice will be provided, and that's a date certain.
Okay. And then continuing, Craig and Janine Mattis. I understand, Mr. Mattis, you're here. You're up.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for having me. So we're back tonight with a revised minor subdivision plan. We had quite a few changes we had to address from last, or 3 months ago at this point, this meeting, to get to this point. But before we get into our new minor subdivision, I'd like to get us clear on how we get to this point and why we're permitted to do this minor subdivision. So first I want to
So,
start.
Mr. Maddox, before we get started, I just want to indicate for the record, is it true that you do not have your attorney here tonight?
My attorney's not present.
Okay, and you are willing to proceed pro se for the rest of this application, is that correct?
Yes, I'm going to represent myself tonight.
Okay, I just wanted to put that on for the record, and while I have you guys pause, can you please both raise your right hand so I can swear you in for tonight's hearing? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Mattis, can you also get the microphone a little bit closer?
Okay.
He owes us a quarter now.
All right, is that better?
Thank you.
Okay. So to begin, this property that has the potential to have another minor subdivision started back in 1999. When the first subdivision had happened, would you guys like copies of this, or can you see it?
I can see it.
You can see it?
Is this, and Mr. Mattis, is this something new that wasn't
This is
presented
this is
before?
yeah, so this is going to be an exhibit. So
This is
pretty
gonna be
much
exhibit.
everything-
So this will be Exhibit A2, we'll mark this.
Okay.
Okay. And what would you describe it as?
It's the initial concept plan of the county,
From the county?
from the county, yes.
Okay.
So this
And
is
do you know the date on that?
2005.
Okay.
I think it was like December 2005.
Okay.
Could I take a copy to Mark?
Would you like to hand them out? or-
Oh, it's thick.
There you go.
Oh, no, it's potables. Okay.
So this is the initial first concept plan that was put together by the county in efforts to purchase 50 acres that they needed for the county property to overcome impervious coverage issues. So with this first map, on their first application, the map and the application was following your 92-92 ordinance, which is an ordinance that allows setting aside a larger tract and in exchange getting two smaller 1.5 to 3 acre residential lots for building of a single family dwelling. The constraints were just being able to have perk on the property. So with that, the property owner, Rexford Case and Eric Zimmerman, they were agreed into a contract with this initial concept plan.
Mr. Mattis,
Yes,
I was looking for this exhibit and I didn't hear what you said, and I think it's important. You said, according to 92-92,
correct. Do you want a copy of that?
no, I just want to
Okay.
hear what you said. I'm sorry. You said that allowed subdivision or allowed?
So, well, under 92-92, it would allow being able to do a subdivision of 50 acres, and with that subdivision of setting aside the larger tract, at least 50 acres, that you would be able to develop 2 1.5 to 3 acre lots, if the conditions permitted the subdivisions.
Perk.
On the perk, yes, correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
Sorry.
So this was the initial concept plan. Yeah, we'll go to the next.
And Mr. Mattis, how would you describe this?
So this is the second concept plan.
Okay. So, and for the record, I'll mark this as A3.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you guys like copies of this one?
Please.
Yes.
So would you say A3?
Yeah, we're at A3.
I know. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. There's a couple more if you need them. That I have. So this second concept plan was the one that, would you like to, okay. This is the one that came with the amended contract with the property owner, the county, and this is the one that got submitted as the concept plan that was accepted. I have a Hunterdon County Planning Board meeting that kind of lays out this concept plan, which I could also provide.
Mr. Mattis, am I right that the stamp on this is October 7, 27, 2005?
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
So in the Hunterdon County Planning Board meeting, which introduced this preliminary concept plan, this is the one where the county ended up going to lot size averaging on this minor subdivision. There was a note on, starting on page,
So, Mr. Mattis, what are we referring to?
okay, so I'm getting to how it went from your 92-92 zoning to
But the document.
the documents, the concept plan of how we're getting to being able to. Oh, this document?
The
So-
Hunterdon. Yeah.
Okay, so in here, this is the one that goes with this preliminary map,
Okay.
and it states.
So we'll mark that as A4, so it's the
Okay.
memo that accompanies
The
A3.
map, correct.
The map,
Yes,
okay.
sorry about
I
that.
mean, maybe for the record, it reads that it's a memorandum dated December 8th, 2005, Hunterdon County Open Space Social Program, just for the record.
So in this planning board meeting with the county, there's notes in here that go along with this map where, starting on page 2 that I have highlighted and going through page 3, that goes through detail about how this map came about and how we went from the first map, which just showed the 2 3-acre lots, to the map that was filed for the final concept plan. So the way they got to this was the county actually initiated reducing, taking 50 acres in the deal to only 47 acres. In doing so, they wanted to be able to give the seller additional land to be able to get, to pretty much be able to do perk testing and assure that they had areas that they could test for the development of their 2 residential lots. By doing this, they got away from your ordinance of your 92-92, which you had to set aside 50 acres to get those 2 lots. But this one here would fall under your 92-91, where you were able to set aside a larger tract and do, what is that, plan, lot size averaging. And by being able to do lot size averaging, and with this concept plan, is how we're getting towards where we're at today with my minor subdivision. Are there any questions on this one?
Well, I guess my question is, so since these documents are just being provided, can we have some of our experts that haven't seen them yet?
Have you seen any of these documents?
I haven't seen the Hunterdon County. Do we have an extra copy of that personally?
Yeah, I think we have one more.
Oh, we have over here.
I can take yours.
I mean, and I ask because, I mean, This is very detailed stuff from many years ago, and it appears that argument may be being made as to what documents are allowing or not allowing things. And just receiving the information, I can say it seems very difficult for me to figure that out on the fly. So I'm curious to see whether our professionals have had a chance to review it. That's all.
No, fair enough. And let's let Mr. Mattis go through, and then we'll give our professionals a chance to respond, and then we'll go from there. We'll see where we are. Go ahead, but I appreciate your point.
All right, so basically just providing these maps, I wanted to clarify that we weren't actually going for a grandfathered 1.5 acre lot, that we were actually going for the lot size averaging provision in your code. And with that, we're going to be moving towards our minor subdivision. And our minor subdivision at this point, with what we have done, has no variances. So at this point, do we want to go into our maps, or do we want to do the questions?
Maybe before you go on, so let me see if I understand. So Alexis, what's your understanding of the application now? Is the application therefore different from what it was last time? Is it no? No, it's not.
No, I can.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is more of a
in little
question
bit
for
more
Mike,
detail,
yeah.
just because it's more planning related.
Thank you.
So basically, the Amwell Valley Agricultural District offers alternative zoning options. And I think it wasn't exactly clear what the zoning option was at the last meeting, and basically that's what Mr. Mattis is clarifying, is that they're specifically going after the lot size averaging option, which doesn't drastically change things. It doesn't change the nature of the application either.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was reacting to what I thought he said was that therefore he doesn't need any variances.
That is true, but it doesn't change the nature of the application as a subdivision application.
But it's no longer seeking variances.
Correct.
So it's an application for a site plan, but it does involve variances at this point.
Just subdivision.
no site
Just-
plan.
Okay.
Yep, but correct. No
Yes.
more,
All right.
no
Thank you. I
variance
appreciate
relief
that.
required.
Thanks.
Yeah. I don't know if you had a chance to, I emailed this to Kristen last night, is it?
Everyone has a copy at their desk.
Oh, okay.
So we'll introduce this. This is the memo from the applicant's planner. That'll be A6, and it's dated yesterday,
It's
Or
dated
today.
July 15th.
July 15th. So Exhibit A5 will be the planner letter, applicant's planner's letter from July 15th.
So in this letter, basically, it goes through the history that Mr. Mattis went through already. I'm not gonna repeat it. But the lot size averaging has 6 different conditions. I'm gonna go through those conditions and show you how we meet them. So minimum
And-
resident,
Excuse me, can we just make clear for the record, have you been, Mr. Ajar?
I was here at the last meeting, I was swear,
And you were sworn in, and you've been qualified as an expert in planning?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure the record was clear. Okay, go ahead.
So item number 1 is minimum residential lot area shall be 1.5 acres. So the proposal for lot A is 1.6 acres, so we comply with that. Maximum dwelling unit density shall be 0.1 unit per acre. So the original tract was 62.4 acres. At 1.1 unit per acre, that will yield 6 units. And the total proposal of unit is 3. So we are way under 6, half. Each lot created by the subdivisions shall satisfy lot suitability requirements, and we comply with that. Every lot has its own septic and well. Item number 4, all lots created by the subdivision option shall be deed restricted against further subdivision. And we don't have any objection to deed restrict against further subdivision, so we will comply with that. The applicant is strongly encouraged to submit a concept plan to the lot size averaging plan to the planning board for review and comments in accordance with 92.91H3. Two concept plan were created in 2005, and the latest A4 or A5,
A5, or, I'm sorry, what are we referring to?
the lot averaging concept plan.
Yeah, so that's A3 and A4.
Okay, so that was the concept plan for the lot averaging concept. And the last item is long, so it talks about environmental sensitive area, and we will comply with those as well. So, based on the revised plan, and I could go through the bulk requirements, we don't have any variances for both lots.
So can we discuss why there's no variances and how the plan's been revised in order to,
So,
Get rid
at
of
the
those.
last meeting, the lot A, we had, I believe, 2 point something acres. So we shifted that line down towards Route 179 to,
and this will be, so let's mark this too, if we're going to refer to the plan. So the plan, this will be Exhibit A6,
yes.
and how would you describe it?
So this is basically the exhibit of showing all the impervious coverage, what's remaining, what
Okay.
will be removed, and what's proposed.
Okay.
So the green is the impervious coverage proposed. The yellow is what's existing and what's remaining. And the red is what we're proposing to remove if the board shall approve this application. So what we did is we adjusted this line until we had no further setback variances. We meet all the setbacks. So we're creating two lots. Lot B is 11.03 acres, and Lot A is 1.6 acres. Would you like me to go through the bulks?
Can you just repeat those numbers for me so I can have those?
Sure. The Lot B is 11.03 acres.
Okay,
And Lot A is 1.6.
thank you.
And the bulks you have here on this plan, are these from, the required ones, are these based on lot size averaging?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
bigger lot has the conventional lot standards, and then the smaller one has the lot size averaging standards. And they
Thank
are correct, so unless the board needs Mr. Hajar to run through them all,
But you've looked at them?
I have looked at them.
Okay.
So we can hang some out if you want.
Does the board have any questions before I turn it over to our professionals? Do you have anything else to add?
Well, I was gonna say, what else we're doing with this plan, is we're actually removing pre-existing variances. There's a building in the back that is too close to the rear property line. I'm proposing to move the building forward to.
Physically move the building?
Move forward to eliminate the pre-existing variance.
Okay.
There is a concrete pad off to the left side of the large barn in the back. I'm proposing to remove that concrete pad to offset the impervious coverage of the house. Yep, of the house that I would like to build. There is a driveway between the two properties that we're going to remove to show separation of the two properties. There is a small shed, which is really not much of a shed left, but we're gonna remove that structure as well to get rid of all the variances that we were seeking at last board meeting.
City, any board members have questions for Mr. Mattis? Are you both
Yes.
for now? Does anyone have, any board members have questions for Mr.
Just a
Madden?
quick question. I see a bunch of test holes. Has it been tested for perking?
We have 2 septic locations and designs.
You know, I did this out of turn. I'm actually would like to hear from professionals first. If you have any questions or if you have anything to
Yeah.
add, and then
Yeah.
we'll.
And Mike, just for matter of procedure, what was just passed out to us, we'll introduce as Exhibit A7, which is just the bulk requirements for the zone. Go ahead.
Am I sworn in yet?
I've sworn you in
Yeah.
a previous hearing.
Yes.
It's hard to remember.
Always good to ask.
At last,
Good to see you again.
yeah, at the last meeting, one of the big issues that came up as a part of this application was that one of the structures appeared to be a duplex. And I know that it has been indicated, I would just ask you to provide testimony on the record that you're willing to deed restrict that property to single family only.
Okay, I would like to call on Eric Zimmerman, who is the current property owner. And at this time, that if we do get a favorable vote tonight,
Mr. Manis, I hate to interrupt you, but Mr. Zimmerman, can I swear you in before you answer that question? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Manis, I'm sorry.
So I have Eric Zimmerman here tonight, and he is the current property owner. He's the one that resides in the residence that's in question. And if the board votes favorably for us, you are willing to deed restrict that.
Deed restricted back down to a single family house.
Thank you. So I just had just some general questions. I think you spoke a lot about how the plan changed and a lot of the variance relief, all of the variance relief has been eliminated. Are there any other intended uses for any of these accessory buildings that at this point, they're just gonna remain accessory to the
They're gonna-
residential use?
Well, no, we're gonna try to farm the property.
Okay,
Currently, most of the structures are pretty close to falling down.
yeah,
I want to save as many as possible and be able to use them for agricultural uses.
gotcha.
But, I mean, from the first time we started to now, there was a second silo that has, since fallen down that we had to, remove off of our plan.
Mhm.
So it's just, most of these structures are pretty close to
Yeah,
falling down.
gotcha.
The intent is to do agriculture.
Okay.
Can you try to speak into the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the questions I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. The only question I have is, Mr. Hajar, Lot A, the impervious was 11,000 square feet. You shifted the lot line, you're removing one of the a shed, some of the driveway, and it's down to 8,000. Can you show me how that 3,000 square foot reduction was created?
I mean, the driveway, I believe it's 1,375 square feet, and that will be removed. And the shed is 260, and that will be removed as well, so that's approximately,
And it was the other barn above.
this
No,
barn
no,
here?
no, the other barn right up, yep,
This one?
yep, that one there.
Yeah, the 845 square feet barn.
Where's that? In red?
No, it's in yellow, but.
It's not shown as being removed, okay.
No,
No,
they
no.
shifted that line, so it's out of it.
It's not on this plan, that was on the original.
Can you show the board where that line was before you moved it, just roughly? Is there a way you can
So-
highlight
I've got that.
where you had the line before?
Is the original one or the exhibit that we had last time?
I don't have the exhibit.
Okay, no, that's,
I may actually.
no, he's questioning the impervious covered from the original one. So you have the original one?
The one we have with the left.
So you're not removing, okay, on Lot A, you're not removing that, you're just moving that barn from Lot A to Lot B now?
The barn, yeah, do you want me to?
No, I'm looking at here,
I was gonna say, I can
Mr.
draw-
Davis has this here. So that's really how you're reducing the impervious on Lot A, is by moving that lot line
Yes.
and taking that barn, now it's gonna be on Lot B, remove the small shed.
And remove the driveway.
Right, and you're gonna remove half of that driveway, all the driveway, but,
Entirely on lot A.
right. Well, I think what the board would need is just a breakdown of what impervious is going to remain listed for Lot A and for Lot B, broken out by building area, pavement, just a clear accounting of what's.
Buildings are on the plan. on the-
Right, if you could list those, because we don't have the size of the new house. Well, I guess we have it now. I don't know if we had that dwelling footprint before.
No, it wasn't on the plan, now it is.
Yeah,
Right.
we tried
So
to-
you have all the structures are labeled with the lot coverage.
Okay, on this drawing, but not anything we've seen before.
That's correct.
Okay.
it was
That's
a-
what makes it a little difficult, because we haven't seen this till tonight. so.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
A lot of new information.
Can we ask questions?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
So my question is really to Mr. Hajar about the claim number 5 here. You say the plan, 2 concept plans were submitted and accepted by the East Amwell Planning Board, and you're referring to acceptance in 2005. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And my question to the professionals here is simply if there's a statute of limitations for these things. I'm asking because I don't know, not because I'm.
Yeah, there's nothing in the ordinance that has a time frame set as far as you can't do this after X years. And there hasn't been anything in the approvals that I have seen or reviewed that sets a deadline on it. So that's all I can really say.
Well, isn't it true that latches applies in land use law applications?
What was that?
Can you
Latches.
explain? Yeah, what you
The
mean?
doctrine of latches, where a person may have legal rights but sits on them or fails to act within a reasonable time, those rights are generally forfeit. And in my understanding, and if you don't know, that's fine, but I was just asking you, are you aware of the doctrine and its application?
No.
Okay.
No, I would ask Alexis.
Thank you.
Alexis,
I mean, from my perspective, it can apply, right? Just like any other legal doctrine, it applies unless it doesn't. And the attorneys up here will know that. I think it's up to the board in this situation to determine whether or not, like Mike said, there's nowhere that says it can't apply this concept plan, right? There's no strict limitation in the ordinance that says that it expires after X date, but I think that's up to the board to determine if they think that's sufficient.
With a review of the resolutions that were adopted back in 2005 and 2006, right?
And for the board's sake, this isn't a new hearing, right? So all the information that we had a few months back also can go into your consideration, right? So while the applicant has amended their plans, the other testimony that has been given, right, regarding what the mayor just mentioned, the resolutions, that can all be taken into account as well.
I am looking at the plan and I see this huge area that says gravel dirt, and that the driveway runs into it. I think that's what it says because it's very small.
Yes.
Is that not impervious coverage? What,
No, it's just a farm field.
but it's gravel dirt.
Well, that's.
It's stone,
Well, it's not really stone.
it's stone.
No. That area in the back?
Yes, talking about this area.
No. Oh, back there, yeah, that's stone, but up above is not. That's just like a farm field in the back. Don't you have that as gravel?
I'm sorry, you're talking about this area,
Yeah.
correct?
I'm talking about this whole area that there's a
That area.
area in the back, there's an area in front of the barns that all says, it looks like it says gravel dirt, but I have
Gravel
very
stone, I think. Oh, no,
It's an
you're right.
area
There's
with
another area that says
old
gravel stone.
eyes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just a dirt area. I mean,
Some says gravel stone, you're correct, or dirt, and some says gravel stone.
Gravel stone's closer, yeah.
In the
to
front,
barns.
correct.
by the barns, it's, it's stone, but off to that area, it's just kind of like a dirt area.
Is that farmable area? It looks, to me, just looking at
Yeah,
this,
it-
it looks very cluttered altogether, generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean.
And
it
I'm
would-
wondering about your area that you have for farming that you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it would be able to be cleaned up and farmed, yes.
Anyone else have questions?
I'm thinking no.
Not to put you on the spot. Mr. Cadre? Other questions? Okay. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this because, as you say, there's been a lot of changes, and you're coming back. Last time we were here, Mr. Burry, the planner, actually stated that he thought that he believed that lot size averaging was the correct method or measure to be looking at. And I'm understanding now, so you're coming back with a revised plan relying upon lot size averaging and the concept plans that were created and accepted, and I'm putting those in parens because
Well,
from 2005.
Lot size averaging, or, originally I thought it was the 92-92 with the 50-acre subdivision. But as I dug more into it, the lot size averaging fits the criteria better because of that second concept plan that was submitted.
When you
wha-
say, go finish.
I was gonna say why it was originally put out as a grandfather lot. I just wanted to clear that up tonight because that's not what we originally had discussed.
When you say dug into it, can you describe, how you got this information? It's
I did
what you-
I did a lot of Oprah requests with the township.
Okay.
Spoke to contacts at the county,
okay.
and I spent numerous hours going through, requesting information, asking the property owner what he could remember, going through the files that they had, requesting more information from your township. I mean, your secretaries were probably tired of seeing me because I was in and out so many times the past 3 weeks
Okay.
trying to request information.
I was just trying to get an understanding of how we got, why and how everything changed, and I appreciate the work you put in. I'm just asking.
I think there was a misunderstanding between my attorney and what I was trying to convey to her,
Okay.
because I had direct communication with the property owner and the back history with him, and I think she was not clear on the options that they used to get to this concept plan. And that's what I was trying to clear up tonight, of how this is permitted still.
Anyone else from the board have any questions?
Yeah, when you were coming to our township, I don't know, I remember from the April meeting, there was a lot of informal, decisions that were made. Did you find out anything about those?
So-
Shed some light on those?
What I came up with the informal references, was the county was the applicant, and you couldn't formally say that the seller was going to get 2 buildable lots because they couldn't guarantee perk. And that was kind of touched upon in this planning board letter. So, from the research that I did, it seems like, they couldn't state definitively that they would be able to have 2 building lots because they couldn't guarantee perk. It would be on, the seller to go ahead and pursue that further. And like I said, in this one with the second concept plan, they had actually given back additional property to try to ensure that the seller could develop the 2 lots that they were going after.
Thank you.
There's a lot
Yeah.
in with this, yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Not of the,
No.
not of the applicants or
Okay.
the corrections, but question for the board if we're done.
We do have to
So,
open up.
we have to open up to the public before, and then we can have discussion.
Well, okay. I wasn't actually getting to discussion. I had a question about the process, but I'll take it whenever you think. there's
Go ahead,
appropriate.
go ahead.
Have we had the benefit of a memorandum from you on the legalities of, the source of lot averaging, what the legal requirements are? Because that's something that we normally have before us, like we did based on the earlier application for variance. We got a legal memo and a planner's memo on the standards and things, because we want to be aware and apply those. And the other thing is there are a lot of facts here that we're hearing that are new, and that's fine. But I personally would like an opportunity for our professionals to review and investigate those facts so that they can give us their recommendations on law and facts. So I'm not sure how we do that or where, but to me, that's a necessary thing at some point in the process before we deliberate.
So the option, so I think take it in two parts regarding the memorandums, that would probably be Mike's planning report, talking about that. In regards to having time to digest the materials that were provided tonight, it would mean that we would continue the hearing like we have been, and having the applicant come back to a date certain, and, you know, asking any question that you may have, and continue it to to August. So that's up to the board if that's what they want to do and hold their vote. But that would be if you wanted that or wanted additional review from the experts, that's how we'd have to do it.
I appreciate the clarification. Thanks.
Question?
Before we go to the
Go ahead.
This is just a question to Mr. Mattis. You came in and testified in some detail about how you really plan to use this as farmland. And I don't know if this is a question I'm allowed to ask you, but would you be willing to deed restrict this property to be farmland in perpetuity?
Yeah. I want to farm the property.
Right, but you're not necessarily going to own it forever. I'm asking about deed restriction here on the property so that when you sell it, it remains farmland.
The property, right now, my projection is to put the barns back the way they were, have a ranch-style house, set up as a farm, probably if, you know, I'm ready to either move or I leave this planet, the property will be set up as a farm. I have no issues having it deed restricted as agricultural use because I want to see it be used in that manner.
Other than the dwelling. How would that work with the dwelling on it? So it would be a dwelling and then the remainder?
Yeah, so
How
it would
that
be,
work?
yeah, we could phrase it where just like it is now in the zoning where you can have a single family home and the agricultural use with it. The other option is, if we didn't want to go so far as a deed restriction, is to make it some sort of condition in the actual resolution, but that would be up to the board and if the applicant is willing to do so.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
On page 3 of the memo, there's sort of a parenthetical that's about 2/3 of the way down. I readily admit that I'm generalizing when mentioning the planning board and want to be perfectly clear that I am not inferring the entire planning board or professional review staff were involved or had any formal discussions about these remaining lands and lot sizes. Do you know who is that? Who's the I?
Kevin or something, I look.
That would be the one that
Signed it.
had signed it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin Scott Richardson, Program Administrator for the County of Hunterdon, as applicant in 2005 is what I saw. It's, you know, with so much new information, it's a fair question to,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Where's this coming?
Mike, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Based on what you understand of our regulations and our ordinances and the plan, have you had sufficient time to review this? So would you, you know, I know you issued a revised planning memo, was it today?
Yeah, so I can speak to this a little bit. I mean, the standards that are being requested are being met. I can say that. I can tell
Okay.
that from the plan. Based on the planner's letter that was submitted this morning, these are really the questions that I feel like were not answered yet. And they're answered in 1 through 6 on page 2 of the planner's letter.
Which I note are similar to some of the issues you raised in your plan,
Yeah, exactly. That was really the gist of what we needed to, what the board needed to understand is, are those met? And the big one there being the intention of lot size averaging is to allow property to be preserved in perpetuity while also allowing that person or that property to kind of have a little bit of benefit down the road. And that's kind of what the intention of that 1.5 to 3 acre lot averaging is. And a lot of times the way that that is regulated is through the density. And a density of 0.01 units per acre, which is the second requirement, is very low. And if you look at the lands that were preserved from the beginning, starting at 62.4, the total proposal is 3 units. And I think there's been a lot of testimony that a lot of this is part of one of the conditions is that it has to be deed restricted against further subdivision. And I think that's an important point, that will be done. There will no more lots will be cut out of either of these properties. And I think that's really kind of what the intent of what lot size averaging really does. But obviously it's up to the board.
I mean, one of the things I'd be curious in, having briefed by our professionals, is, how lot size averaging is applied, because it would seem to me that it would likely be its incentive for the landowner and for, a government entity to both go into a transaction. Of course, this appears to be something that's happened years and years ago, like 20 years ago now. So I would be curious to also hear, whether lot size averaging can be continually applied to a property over time. Because the fact that, an original lot may have a certain size, may lead some folks to try to apply it in the future to say, well, if a big lot was pulled off previously, now that should be used in the lot size averaging. So I'm just not sure how those apply. So for me, I'd be curious to know more about the lot size averaging in terms of the law and the planning aspects of it, to understand the intent of how, how it is to be applied, and how that makes sense for what was approved in lot size averaging.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a valid point. There's not too many specifics within the section that's get into what needs to happen, and I think that's really an issue with a lot of zoning codes, is that it gets really complicated to figure out what you need to do to use these different design standards.
So you're saying there's not specifics within our ordinances?
As far as what the timeline is, or if you can use a lot that previously got taken out as a part of this, those aren't anywhere within the code right now, so.
Right, so
Yeah,
it would be helpful.
I'm agreeing with you, Mary,
Yeah.
that there's not specifics in there.
So in light of that, it would be helpful to know ways that ought to be interpreted then, because otherwise, let's say you've got somewhere a 100-acre parcel, and at some point in time, a couple acres are taken off, and then in the future, someone wants to take another couple acres off. Do you keep going back to the original piece and averaging? And if so, do you really have any zoning? Because it can always just be lot size average. So I haven't seen that applied before, and I just don't know a lot about it. So I would be curious for our professionals to dive into what it says and what it doesn't says, and how it should be applied, and how we interpret it if there's no provision in there.
Yeah, what I can tell you is that the intent is that you start with a big piece, and the density of that big piece is 0.1, no matter what. That's really kind of the intent. You start with the pie, and you start cutting stuff off, and everything. Another part of it, I think, is a really crucial part, is that your density is from that whole tract, and you're deed restricting against any further subdivision. So I think that's a really helpful component.
So maybe one aspect of the memo that you work on can be, if a parcel is initially subdivided, does it need to be deed restricted at that time? Because that's clearly what's contemplated by the lot averaging. If it's not, does that mean you can still apply lot averaging in the future or not?
Yeah, and I think that's something we'll have to get into through this
I appreciate
historical approvals that are kind of just up there. So.
And Mayor, too, along with what you just asked Mike and what Mike's response was, is I do think even the ordinance does not provide a time frame, that requirement that it has to be deed restricted against further subdivision does provide some sort of restriction, but your question is still valid regarding, you asked Mike.
Right,
Yeah.
so when, in a hypothetical, when ought it to be deed restricted so it can be applied? And if it's not the first couple times, can you still do it, divide it again, and then deed restrict at the end? So I'm not sure, but I'm just sort of spotting some issues about, application, so we make sense in the way we apply it. No, thank you both for that.
Any other questions for the witnesses? And then we'll open to the public, and then we can have more discussion. May I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're open to the public. Questions for the witness, for questions of these witnesses.
Francis Gavigan, I think my voice carries. This property is across the street from the South County Park. Is that correct?
No.
It's not?
No.
Not even the part they don't use? By Gulick Road?
Nope.
Okay.
It's on the same side of the road.
It's on the same side of the road, but down the road. I actually have,
Across from Wright's Garage.
Okay.
It's on
Are there any environmental, water, because that's, I think, there's nothing like that, or any kind of things like that, or safety zones that they might have? Okay, that's it.
anyone else have questions for the witnesses? Come on up, Mr. Wolf.
Where should I go to speak?
Pick a mic.
You can use- Maria will share her. Oh, there's a mic there.
Thank you.
And Mr. Wolf, can you please state your name for the record and whether or not you're an East Amwell resident?
Rick
I know.
Wolf. And
Thank you.
yes, I'm an East
I know.
Amwell resident.
Thank
Do you need to swear me in?
you. I do.
Okay,
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a little confused. The concept plans, who approved those ultimately? Or were they just concept plans?
They were approved and accepted by East Amwell Planning Board.
Well, if they were approved and accepted by East Amwell Planning Board, and one of them is from 1999 and the other is from December 8th, 2005, how come none of them were referenced in the 2006 resolution that created this 12-plus acre lot?
In the resolution, it said that, it requested the county to submit a concept plan in the 2005 resolution. if I
I'm
remember.
referring to resolution number 2006-20, which was Exhibit B to your application.
That one, the 2006 resolution, that's the minor subdivision for the first lot.
That's what created, your lot was created as a 12.564 acre lot. And that's discussed in this resolution. In other words, 50 acres was given to the county, 2.5 acres was hived off of the remaining lot, or I should say, there were 2 remaining lots. 2.5 was hived off of one. The balance of that lot was combined with another lot to create your lot of 12.564. There's no reference in here to concept plans. In fact, if the concept plans that you showed were the plans, this 2006 resolution wouldn't have been necessary. Best I can tell, those concept plans were just concept plans. They were never adopted by anyone. What was adopted is what's in this 2006 resolution. And I think you made a mistake, because when Dante asked you about the informal, I think it was Dante, you said this resolution or this application was brought by the county. It wasn't. This application before the planning board in 2006 was brought by the R.D. Case Family Partnership, not the county.
So there's
I think
another
you-
resolution in 2005 which was brought in by the county.
That's okay, but this is the resolution.
This is the latest
That-
resolution
the
that
latest.
severed the 2.5 acres.
Correct. It also merged the lots into the 12 point.
Yeah, correct.
Right. This created
Now,
the existing
The county
lot.
was involved in 2005, not in 2006.
Correct, but vis-à-vis East Amwell, this is the governing document. This planning board resolution is the
I mean,
governing
we don't
document.
have any control if the resolution doesn't talk about the concept plan.
Well, no, you do have control, because typically, unless you're telling me that the planning board administrator just dropped the ball on that and that the applicant's lawyer missed it when they reviewed it, this wasn't part of this. And there's nothing in the record that indicates that the applicant objected And what was done here isn't what's in those concept plans. This superseded the concept plans. And the notion that the use of the word informal in here is because this was an application by the county, which is what you said earlier, is not correct. This was not an application by the county. This was an application. This is not an application by the county.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the 2005 application.
Understand, that's not the governing. This is what created the lot. What you're talking about are concept plans, plans that were never implemented. And I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you believe that if once upon a time somebody owned a lot of 50 acres or 100 acres and had the ability under our lot averaging to get more houses than you otherwise could, because that's what lot averaging is. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I have a 100-acre lot and our zoning is 10 acres, I could put 10 houses, 10 acres each. East Amwell wanted to preserve farmland, so they said, Rick, if you agree to cluster your houses, we will give you a bonus. We will let you put 15 houses on 1.5 acre lots. I understand, but what you are saying basically is because once upon a time we owned a large lot, we forever have the right to do lot averaging.
I think we still do have the right to do lot averaging because our lot was never deed restricted.
The concept.
No, a 12-acre lot is not subject to lot averaging. You cannot do lot averaging on a 12-acre.
62.4 acres.
You don't own 62.4, you own 12.
deal when we went with the
Am I asking you a question, sir?
No.
I did not interrupt your testimony. I did not interrupt your questions. You don't own 62 acres, correct?
We owned.
Would you please answer my question? Do you currently own 62 acres?
No, but we owned 62.
When was the last time you owned 62 acres?
1999.
25 years ago.
2005. It was 2005.
The
Was
4.7 was out though.
the
we had
5.7,
50.
62, okay, so yeah, 1999 was that one, yeah, okay. So 1999 was the original.
And so basically, I think what you're saying is if I own 100 acres and I hive off 10 for myself and I sell 90 to Dante, I forever have the right to come in and subdivide the 10. Because once upon a time, I owned 100. And on 100 acres, I could actually put 15 houses. So I forever have the right to come back and subdivide the 10. And oh, by the way, Dante owns 90. And since 90 is more than 10, more than 20, I should say, Dante could subdivide the 90.
If East Amwell doesn't want to do this, they could change the ordinance, correct?
Well, I don't know if they have to change the ordinance. It's hard
The
for me to
ordinance-
interpret an ordinance that says, once upon a time, 25 years ago, I owned 62 acres. I donated 50 to the county. I have 12 acres left. I forever have the right to apply lot averaging to that 12. That's what I think you're saying to me.
No, what I'm saying is we have the right to apply for lot averaging, and at the end, we'll deed restrict the lot.
With the concept.
And that's what the ordinance says, and that's what we're pursuing.
Deed restricting is moot here. You don't have the ability to subdivide a 12-acre lot in East Amwell Township. If you only, correct me if I'm wrong, and our planner can correct me if I'm wrong, if I own only 12 acres in that district, I don't have the right to subdivide it. We have a 10-acre minimum. I can't subdivide a 12-acre lot.
We had 62.4 acres.
I understand, and I had hair
No, you're
once
not
upon a time.
understanding because-
Okay, but I don't anymore,
I mean-
and I haven't in a long time.
You could request the governing body to change the ordinance if you don't like it.
The ordinance doesn't need to be changed. Show
Apparently
me
it
where
does.
the
If
ordinance
you-
says
If East Amwell
that
doesn't
you
want the
have.
housing.
Excuse me, let's
Okay,
keep it cordial.
well, I'm very cordial. I just want to make sure I'm heard. If you're telling me
You're
you're
heard.
fine, okay.
Let's just both of us, let's keep it
Tell me
respectful.
where in the ordinance it says that when you currently own 12 acres, you are entitled to lot average. You could have lot averaged when you owned 62. You didn't do that. Now you're coming back 24, 25 years later and saying, but under the ordinance, because once upon a time, I owned 62 acres, I forever have the right to use lot averaging. I applaud the creativity, but it ain't the way the rules work. You own 12 acres right now.
That's your opinion, correct?
You own 12 acres right now.
That's your opinion?
We're
Yes.
going in circles here.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep repeating the same thing over and over.
Well, let's go back to this 2006. This 2006 does not in any way reference these concept plans, correct?
2005 does, and that's. the
I'm
one that-
asking the question, does the 2006, you've done a lot of homework, you've said you've done a lot of homework.
Yes.
Does the 2006 ordinance reference these concept plans anywhere in the ordinance? I mean, in the resolution, I'm sorry.
2006 resolution is the subdivision. The
Could you
first
please
subdivision.
answer my question? Does the 2006 resolution anywhere reference the concept plans?
So they acknowledged the subdivision of the 2 lots. The planning board acknowledged with the applicant. And this is when they were saying 50 acres. And I had clarified that
You are
tonight.
not answering my question. I think because you know the answer is no, you're trying to avoid it. So I'm going to say that the applicant is in effect answering no because he is not pointing out anywhere in this relatively short resolution.
It does say applicant reminded the board that it appeared before the planning board in 2005 and early 2006 in order to discuss its plans with the board. So I think that refers to the document from the county.
It may have appeared to discuss plans. You don't know which plans, Jamal, they're referring to. They don't say. They just say plans. They also reference an informal agreement, which is not in any way resembling those concept plans. It says applicant explained that this proposed building lot of 2.5 acres and another building lot of less than 3 acres were proposed at those informal meetings. The purpose of the subdivision of these 2 smaller lots was to facilitate a sale of a 50-acre parcel to Hunterdon County for use as part of the South County Park. Based upon this informal agreement, applicant proceeded in good faith and completed the sale to Hunterdon County. Now applicant is seeking to subdivide 1 lot for construction as a single-family residence. Next year, soil tests will be performed on the remaining acreage near Route 179, and assuming the soil tests are favorable, then applicant expects to return to apply for an additional building lot as informally agreed to. That's what this says. Doesn't refer to concept plans. It simply says that the applicant is coming in to hive off 1 2.5 acre, and then next year the applicant will perform soil tests, and if those soil tests come back favorably, the applicant will return to hive off the second. That tells me that the planning board did have some sort of informal agreement and expected it to be carried out within the next year or so. The applicant would come in after it got the soil tests, assuming the soil tests were favorably, and then it would come before the planning board to hive off the second lot. If the applicant, as a matter of right, had the ability to hive off that second lot under this lot sizing, that second hearing would have been unnecessary before the planning board. You wouldn't have had to come in for that sort of approval. It had to come back because it didn't even discuss with the planning board the size of the second lot. It says another building lot of less than 3 acres. It doesn't even discuss the size of it. So yes, there was a handshake deal in 2006. They approved one. They said, go get your soil tests. You can come back in a year and talk to us. We'll look at what you want to do. If it's copacetic, we'll approve it. This isn't a year later. It's not 2 years later. This is 18 years later. The people who were here who understood the informal agreement, they're gone. Unfortunately, whomever was, I guess it's that partnership, they just sat on it. This wasn't out there forever. Just give me one moment. By the way, I also agree with Dante that this ought to be continued so that people can carefully look at the statutes, or I should say our ordinances. The professionals can carefully weigh in. And I'll just also point out that nowhere in here does it talk about lot size averaging. That's not what they were approving. They knew if you wanted lot size averaging, you do it when you're subdividing. That's not what this was about. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone else from the public?
Can I address something?
You can come up and speak.
Yeah.
When it comes down.
Mr. Zimmerman, can you please, what's your name for the record?
Eric Zimmerman.
And-
I am the owner of the property.
Yes, and you've already been sworn tonight.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, as far as back when we subdivided the first lot, and that gentleman was saying that we were gonna get back to him within a year to do another perk test. Within that year, well, we figured one of my kids were gonna build a house and live there. We only found out the perk test was only good for 3 years. We weren't gonna spend $4,000 knowing the kid's 17 years old, that he's gonna come up in a year or two to put a house on there. So that's why we didn't do it. Because the perk was only good for 3 years. We know within 3 years we weren't going to build a house because the kid was only 17 years old. Now we're 18 years later, things are different. You understand what I mean? I mean, life's different. He's not living here. So that's why it wasn't perked back then, because it would have been a waste, because there's no way we would have built the house within 3-year period of that time. And we didn't have the money to lay out to do it. At one of the meetings, somebody said, oh, it was only $500 a perk back then. That's a lie. To have the machine there was $1,500 plus the engineer overnight was a couple hundred or $1,000. So that's the problem. That's why we didn't do it. For the record, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Either questions for this witness, or if you'd like to add something at this point?
Tamara Lee, East Amwell. I just have a
And-
question.
Can you be sworn
Can I
in?
swear you in, Tim? Do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go
I
ahead.
just have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
For the planner. If the board is sympathetic to the situation, that there was a promise made many years ago, but time has passed, and maybe they're obviously struggling with dealing with that, would you be able to provide some testimony with respect to the proofs for a variance for an undersized lot on this application, if that was necessary? I know you say there's no variances, but if that's the only way to get a smaller lot, could you provide proofs for an undersized lot? It'd be either a C1 or a C2, probably a C2.
C2, I mean,
C2.
no, it wouldn't be a hardship.
Just for I mean, yes, it might be a new variance, but as testimony develops, if the board sees the need for a new variance that isn't something brand new. I mean, this is a variance that describes a situation that you guys have been wrestling with for a couple of months now. You can consider the variance even if it is not specifically spelled out in the notice. It's simply a variance that happens to be necessary. So I'm just saying, if the experts can provide proof for that, that might be another way if the board wanted to give some credence to the history that's been given for this application. Just throw that out there.
And off of what Tam said, that would be up to the applicant to request that
Absolutely.
relief if they wanted, but I would have to take a quick look at the notice, but normally when I look at the notices, it's normally says any and all variances as may deem necessary, which would encompass a variance like that, which would make the notice sufficient.
Yeah. mean,
So
it's
I imagine
usually
it
when
has
you have
that.
a use variance,
Yeah.
not shown in the notice that there's a problem. But other variances,
C variance is fine.
yeah, they can come up. So just throw that out there.
Anyone else from the public want to add something? Any questions? Okay, may I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, close to the public. So at this point, I think what I'd like to do is give the board an opportunity to discuss and ask each other questions. And then at that point, we can then decide. Did you want to add something? Go ahead, Mr.
Can I
Mattis.
say one more thing? So I know that the time is an issue. So, I mean, it's not really anybody's problem but mine, but I actually started this process in 2019. So it's been a very, very long venture. With going through COVID and not getting anybody to want to help you, to going through 3 attorneys, to actually getting an application submitted and it taking almost a year with deferring and extending and to get to tonight. So, I mean, that almost took up 5 years to go from when him and I first talked about this lot to sitting here tonight. I mean, that's a long time for me to continue to pursue something. And, you know, with just everything that's happened in the last few years, I mean, there was almost 2 years that was at a standstill because of COVID, because I couldn't get anybody to do anything. So, I mean, I know it's still, you know, 13, so 14 years after, but it's not, you know, the 18 that everybody's talking about from when I originally started, you know, negotiations with Eric. So I just wanted to let everybody know that.
I heard. Is there anything else you want to say, Mr. Planner? Professionals, do you have anything you want to add? I note your concern about the impervious coverage, just, but anything else? Okay, we'll hear from the board.
So as for me, I just find it premature to be able to have any conversation because I don't fully understand the standard, the legal standard that we need to apply here, nor do I understand fully the history of an application of lot averaging and the history that the applicant in his new submissions today suggests should govern our understanding of what the facts were, how it ties together with the ordinances that were done at the time, any discussions with the county. All of that seems to me to be imprecise at this point, at least because I haven't had a chance to look at the facts and hear from the professionals. So for me, I don't feel qualified to have a discussion at this point. That's just where I am.
Please,
Yeah.
everyone, speak into your microphone.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, go ahead.
I'll raise my hand on that one. And I agree with Dante. I mean, we just have all this information that was handed to us today. And, you know, I'm not going to be able to read this and listen to our professionals and, you know, other testimony on what's what. I'm a little confused. I think if we pushed it to August, that would be great. And again, if we had some kind of like documentation on the informal, you know, decision-making or deals that were cut, I mean, were they here? Were they at a bar? I mean, it kind of, that doesn't sit well with me. Just letting you know. So I'd like to push to August with our professionals, you know, Mike and the engineer coming up with new, you know, memos.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Candace.
I'm just going to add my agreement to that, and I would really like to hear the legal ramifications of this. It's always boiled down to me if that 18-year-old agreement is still good. And that's still out there. You know, it sort of was muddied tonight, and we need to get that clarified.
Is that, to me, it's pretty clear. like, it's clear that the county made an agreement to allow for lot averaging in these lots. And the question is somehow the letter of the law gonna get in the way of the spirit of the law? I mean, they gave 50, just short of 50 acres to the county, and the county gave them some possibility to develop in the future. And now it's like, well, has the clock run out? Are we setting some other kind of precedent? But I mean, this document from late in 2005 spells it out pretty clearly. I don't see why that's so complicated.
Well, I think one question we need to ask is, well, does the county have the ability to bind the township with its zoning? I suggest not. So I'm not sure what the effect of a discussion with the county about an opportunity to buy 62 acres changes, our own resolutions and our own zoning, because, I mean, just as a black letter law matter, zoning is not controlled by the county. They have no authority, so their only participation in the process is as a purchaser of open space. And that's an important thing, and we're very supportive of open space purchases, but what an open space purchaser might want in the future, or say the rules in East Amwell are, to my understanding, have no legal force and effect, because they have no authority to control our zoning nor the decision-making of our planning board. So to me, I need to see what the facts are there to see if there's something more than that. I feel guided by the things that East Amwell did, and so, if it has some resolutions from 2005 and 2006, I'd like to better understand what we decided, because that is binding, given various legal applications and the like. So for me, I don't find it open and shut, because I don't see an open and shut document from East Amwell saying, look, if you sell 62 acres now, you can keep going on and lot averaging in the future for whatever lots you want. I definitely don't see that, and I really want us to be careful when we apply our own ordinances, that we do it mindfully. I think, like Candy's saying, in a way, because we know we have to apply our own law, and we have to be knowledgeable about how we apply it in the future as well. So that's why, for me, there's a lot to look into.
Anyone else?
I think it's a very good point the mayor made, because it's a first case. It may not be the last, and we have to really understand, and we don't. So there's a lot of information we could look, or maybe we have to come up with something new. It's just, I think it's a lot of missing. There's a gaps. There's like that I personally too, I couldn't keep up with everything. So that I fully agree to take our time.
Mike, anything?
No, I was thinking about the, what you brought up before about the county. It is not county property, so how would that affect us in our planning board zoning? And I empathize with you, I really do. It's a long haul for you guys, I really do, but we do have to make sure nothing in the future can happen, something like this, avoid some confusion, and stick to our plans of 10 acres and stuff too. But yeah, we do have to find out about the average acreage average and the like. I agree with that. Yes. So I think we should hold off until we get all that information, make an informed decision.
You have anything?
Yeah, I'm on the same page around holding off so we understand more. I do want to understand the idea that the county was the party in 2005, and the RD Case partnership was the party that the township was dealing with in the 2006 resolution. And so I want to make sure I understand that. I just don't have the necessary documentation to even understand what happened in 2006 from the township point of view.
Excuse me, Chair, can I say something quickly?
Testimony's closed. Do you have anything like average or anything like that?
They can come to the hearing.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm very sympathetic. At this point, I think it's pretty obvious that the majority of the board wants to hold off. I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn this to the next meeting. Anyone want to make a motion for that?
I'll make that motion since I.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone agrees?
And so, just to be clear, there will be no more notice that's required, so we're continuing it just like before, so no more notice. This will serve as a notice for the date certain of August, for the August meeting. And Kristen, what's the date for the August meeting?
That is August 19th.
So it'll be continued to date certain of August 19th.
Mr. Mattis, I am sympathetic, and I just want to ask the board if there are any other questions you have that you want to have answered. Please, let's get them out there.
Yeah, so both for Mr. Mattis and for our professionals to
Yeah.
address, right? Because that's the materials that our
I mean,
professionals are going to be going
You've been
for.
very clear.
I mean, for me, I've asked all the questions I have as of today. I can't say that I won't have any questions after
Fair enough.
investigating the facts and hearing from our experts, but I appreciate, the situation that you want to get it resolved, and I appreciate the clarification of what you're seeking, and we just want to be fair and even-handed about how we're applying things. So, thank you.
Dante, can you itemize your questions? I mean, you listed several questions that were great questions.
So for the professionals, some of the questions, let me see if I made a note here. I mean, off the top of my head, it would be, I'd like our memos from our professionals to talk about, what is lot averaging, what's the source, what are the legal standards for that, and included in that, how are there limitations on it, how it ought to be applied, given the timing of when it's done, whether it can get done in the future, whether it can get continually done, whether there's an effect if the first time that the large lot is pulled off, if then the smaller lots are not deed restricted. Meaning, if that happens, does that mean wasn't lot averaging and you can't do it again? Or does it mean, no, sure, you could do that and you could keep lot averaging on and on into the future? I don't know legally what the limitations are there. So those are some of the kinds of questions I.
There was a law you mentioned too.
Well, there's the
time.
doctrine of latches.
Yes.
LATCHES. So
I would like to hear a clarification of that.
well, I mean, we did hear Alexis. I heard her say, and I agree with this, that latches is a doctrine that applies throughout the law, and that her opinion was that it could apply here, and
Would that be for the board to determine?
so well, the app could apply it, right? So I think what she said, and she can do it, is that look, that doctrine does apply, but the board needs to make a determination of how it applies.
And
Because-
I'm sorry to interrupt, and
No,
how
it's good.
it would apply to a specific criteria, right? So what the board is bound to, and they have a statutory realm that they can operate in, right, under the municipal land use law. But when it comes to, a doctrine like that, it has to somehow apply to a particular criteria of the test, right? So we can't just say, broad stroke latches applies, right? It would have to be some particular part of the test, especially for subdivision, for that standard. You have to be really clear
Well,
that
this is why I raised it initially, and I think what Candy's following up on rightly is, so our professionals can weigh in on that to us, because you guys provide us with the benefit of what the doctrine is, because most folks are lay people, and on this board, and then how you apply that, and again, what are the criteria, because I know this board, these members are very conscientious. Everybody wants to apply the law and to apply it in the way that we ought to, and so in my opinion, having our professionals provide that assistance in the memos is really helpful, because then people can know what to do and how. And so in that example, for example, you as the attorney may help us with what the doctrine of latches stands for and how it could or could not be applied here, so that we can understand how that works. unless anyone remembers something else, those were the kinds of things that I know these folks were listening to.
So I have a question as it relates, I mean, to me, this comes down to, I think, can lot size averaging be applied? And what are the sort of quote-unquote rules around that, as Dante has mentioned? I've read the statute, I've read our ordinance on this multiple times, and maybe not everyone had the opportunity, but I would like to know, is there things outside of our ordinances that we're bound by? Or is it just the ordinance? I think that would, and again, can they properly use that? Is that the right sort of quote doctrine to apply? And the other thing is, there's been a lot of discussion on the history. If we want to go back to that history and rely on that history, I think it would be helpful to have that laid out a little bit. I mean, we have, 2 months ago, we had some of the resolutions. Now we have a new resolution. The information's come in, unfortunately, over time. And given that time, I think for me, and I've spent some time trying to get the full picture, I think it would be helpful. And I do hear you.
I think, I was thinking of the other issues. So another one is also, the applicability of the various resolutions that were adopted by East Amwell before. And I thought of it because you reminded us about the chronology and the connection. These facts are very important because, an argument is being made by applicant on how that should be interpreted in the facts. And I think we need to know our best understanding of what the facts are from those documents. And professionals, I think, can help us with that as well. And I think it's a pretty detailed history and application, so this is not an easy one where, we can get simple materials and just kind of weigh it and apply the standard. I think there's, for various reasons, not only time, I think it's difficult, so I think if our professionals can help us in that way, I think it would be good to make a good, sound decision.
Okay. Anything else before we move on from this item?
Well, Madam Chair, I would just ask that these exhibits be sent to us in PDF form, by the applicant's planner, or can that be done?
Yeah.
Just, okay. That'd just much easier to read if we can get a PDF that.
Sure enough.
PDF of just the impervious coverage
cover
map?
summary, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have electronic versions of all of
Of
these
all?
exhibits?
Yeah.
If you could give those to Kristen, it would make it easy to put it into the file.
Thank
And-
you.
yep. Anything else? Okay. Moving on to new business. We have none for this month. Don't hold your breath, there'll be more. Okay, next up, invoices for approval. We have invoices from our planner, from our attorney, and from engineers. Everyone had a chance to take a look. May I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is passed. What else do we have? Items for discussion. I don't have anything specific. Is there anyone, we will go through the oral reports, but is there anything else we want to? Okay. We'll go to oral reports. Mr. or actually, no. Ms. Wiggum or Dante DePiro, Mr. DePiro, do you have anything for Ringo's?
A couple of things really quickly. Apparently a circulation plan is being worked on by the state. How long that will take and whether we'll ever see it, I don't know, but we're keeping after it.
It's being worked on.
Yeah,
This is progress.
That's a good sign.
I'll call that progress.
Yep. I think we still haven't gotten a report from West Amwell. Official report on the Oddfellows house. We put up flags, as you may have noticed, in the township for the 4th of July, and we're thinking about seeing if the people who live in the houses along those roads will take some of those flags and put them up next year for us, because it's quite arduous to get all those flags up. So we'll probably be ordering more flags. And just to remind everybody, in September, at Friday night at the park, we're also going to sponsor a volunteer fair.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Kadri?
There's nothing to report. Our meeting has been canceled for the month. But we're supposed to be hearing back from the state on the report, so that'll be the next big one.
Okay. And Environmental Commission, I think that was being reconstituted in some way, if I recall correctly.
With the recycling committee.
And where is that? Do you know?
I think it's.
I'm not trying to put you on the
Yeah,
spot, I just hear.
I think it's pending, but I think there's pretty much consensus that that's the way to go.
Okay. We don't really have anyone on Ag Advisory, so Historic Preservation, Mrs.
Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the July meeting, so my apologies, I don't have anything to report.
Can I ask Ms. Van Horn a question? Have you ever located anything about that young Boy Scout who was trying to get his Eagle Scout doing?
I believe it was on the agenda for the July meeting, but as I said, I was unable to attend, so
Okay.
I haven't heard anything more. I
Okay.
expect the August meeting, I'll have something to report on that.
Anything from Ms. Secretary?
Nothing to report.
Okay. I have a couple things. I had the opportunity finally to get back and looking at, we keep talking about the ordinances. And so I had an opportunity to meet with Dante and sort of take a fresh look at that list from the master plan. And we've got some clear direction on priorities. No shock, keeping it rural, keeping, protecting the sort of character. So we'll be looking at changes that need to be made with that in mind. And we discussed, Dante, be honest here. We'll sort of go down two tracks. One is, sort of the larger things that will maybe, some of them may be more, will need more direction from the township committee. And then also some, what I will call technical changes that need to be made to the ordinances, cleanup. One particular that we've started is that some of our ordinances, instead of having instead of saying here's something that's allowed with these conditions, it just says here's what something is. It basically, the conditions are in the definitions. So this is literally, it's not changing any policy. We'll be really careful to not change policy, but there'll be a little bit of heavy lifting in terms of editing. So our plan is to bring those to you for input, with a sort of here's the change, here's the why is the change, and then we can look at the ordinances with all the red line that some people love and some people don't want to look at. So we'll try to separate sort of the layout, what we're trying to accomplish, and then do the ordinances. So we'll start doing those as well. So we'll try to get down on two tracks, and then as it relates to historic preservation, Dante asked that we as a planning board try to move that along as well. So those are our quote unquote marching orders, if you will. So you'll hopefully, even with all of these hearings and things of that nature, it's easy to, and I'm going to keep trying. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else before we open to the public? May I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Open to the public? So many people.
Board, Kimberly, I just want to address a couple of issues that maybe came up. This might be helpful. With respect to lot size averaging, I was around when that was created. When the 10-acre zoning was put in place, there was a concern that it was going to eat up the farms. So you got a 100-acre farm, you create 10-acre lots, it's going to break up the whole farm. You're going to have 10-acre McMansions and no farming anymore. So they put lot averaging in place. It means you get the same number of lots, but you would have 9 smaller lots and then a larger lot that could still be farmed. And the idea, the suggestion was lot averaging was gonna help save farms and not just, we weren't gonna lose them all to McMansions, so that was their response, that was how that was created. With respect to, can you continue to lot average? No, you can't, because there are 6 criteria for lot averaging, and the 4th one is you have to deed restrict those lots, no more subdivisions. So once you do lot averaging, that's all you get for those lots, okay? So I just wanna throw that out there. With respect to approvals and how long they last, if it's just an approval of a concept plan or an informal plan, there's no protection whatsoever. The board is not bound by it, the applicant is not bound by it, there's no protections at all. Any other protection that, or any other approval that a board would give out, the length of the protection is spelled out in the law depending on what it is. Site plans are protected for a certain amount of time, subdivisions for another certain amount of time. At the end of that time period, the approval doesn't go away, but the person who has the approval is no longer protected. So if the ordinances change, they can't do anything about it. If they haven't built their subdivision or their site plan, well, now they can't build it
So they're
because the ordinance has changed.
So they're not grandfathered, quote
So
unquote.
In a way, but, so say for site plan, right, major site plan is 3 years, right? That approval goes on indefinitely unless there is a change in the zoning, right? So say the zoning changes, right?
Okay,
That's
now I
only
understand.
that 3 years protects you for that zoning unless you go and you ask for an extension from the board. But if there's no change in zoning, then that approval can go indefinitely.
Unless it's, unless it's stipulated otherwise in the approval, or no? No, okay.
No, there's sometimes the ordinance will say a variance is
Yeah.
only good for a certain amount
For a
of
year.
time, and I think we have that provision
Yeah, a
in the
year.
ordinance. I'd have to double check that.
Now, is that just the land, or is that the ownership of the land? You know, is it land only, say, you
Well,
have a
no.
change of ownership?
No, it runs with the land approvals.
Yeah, if someone buys the land, then they could have that, yeah. But if somebody substantially changes, so if a property gets some variances, it's tied to the plan that those variances were granted for, okay? The only time that might not be the case is with use variances, they run with the land. Use variances run with the land, but other variances run with the plan. And if a new buyer comes in and wants to build something different, then they're not going to be entitled to the variances that went with the other plan.
Thank you.
There's lots of different possible situations, and there's just a lot of detail to all these things, but it is spelled out.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you suggest that the board consider some sunset provisions that we don't currently have in place on some approvals, given the situation we find ourselves in tonight?
Well, you really, I mean, the approval was the original subdivision. There were no other approvals. There were concept discussion, plans, concept plans. But again, like I said, concept plans and formal plans, nobody is bound by those, ever. So, but if you wanted to do, I mean, you really can't add sunsets to site plans or subdivisions. That's all governed by state law, so that's going to preempt anything.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Francis Gavigan, Dinosaur. I was here way back when. And there are, if you want more context, you can probably find it. I think they're required to keep minute books going back forever. So the minute books for the planning board and the Board of Adjustment should be available to be read, or even things like the VIP that can put into at least historical context some of the things that went on with the creation of the South County Park and the land across whatever. Curiosity killed the cat. You can find out stuff, but you're not bound by it. Sorry, I had jalapenos. An example of where something goes away is the land that Mr. Wolf bought off Reinerson was originally approved for a large subdivision, and that never got built. He bought it and things like that. I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I am, he couldn't go back and pull it out of the file and say, hey, I want to do this now. I think that that is an example of where things sunset, expire. There is the property up on 518 and 31 that was approved for units and things, a pizzeria or something like that. That hasn't been built in probably 5 or 6 years. That concept might still be something that if they came back with to reactivate it, but I don't think that that's been requesting extensions. The issue that you may want to consider is the moral concept, which I think Jamal was getting towards. If once upon a time there were going to be 2 lots and they were going to be this size, and that didn't happen, but can they be configured with variances to be something on any piece of lot, then that is an advantage to the public, is that farmers and folks who are considering preservation might be less likely to do it if they think that if it's not something that's perfect from day one. And the one thing I've learned over the years I've been here is when you're planning anything with the county, it's a little loosey-goosey, hisey-wisey, doesn't matter because they're the government. So, but just look to the minute books, and thank God you have to keep them per this year's yellow book. And that's it. I know you struggle with this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Guess there's nobody else, so. May I have a motion to close to the public?
So moved.
Anyone against that? Okay. I don't think we have anything else. I noted the correspondence that was added to the agenda. Other than that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second? All in favor? Anybody against? Okay, motion is passed. We are adjourned.
Thank you.